Hi, I'm David Hogg, co-founder of March for Our Lives. It is an honor to be here speaking with you all today. Even though I wish I could be with you in person, it's still great to be here. Tremendous thank you to Dan, Stacy, Jane, Cindy, and all of the teachers and school community professionals of the IFT for having me to speak to you all as a representative of March for Our Lives, and know that we're with you there in spirit today. So my first experience actually with protest was when I was about 3 years old, when my mom was a unionized teacher, and they were protesting to get higher wages. So thank you all for the introduction to activism. Of course, my story really begins on February 14th when my high school unfortunately was shot up by a former student who was 19 years old and came back to campus and killed 17 of my classmates and educators. And every day since, I have been fighting with thousands of other young people across the country to end the scourge of gun violence in the United States. Not just with young people, obviously, but with everyday people of all ages that are impacted. And I think one really important note is to note that most of our students, of course, while school shootings are horrible and horrifying, the vast majority of our students and the violence that they face, they're far more likely to die every day from things like gun suicide or everyday shootings that happen outside of their schools that the media does not cover the same. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for our students, for our children, and as a result, it is now the leading cause of death of our future, because our children are our future, as every teacher and educator and supporter in education. And that's why I would really emphasize it is so important for us to focus on all forms of gun violence and not just the types that get on the news after they've happened inside of schools, because the violence that is taking most of our children is happening outside of school. It is critical. And for many students, school is the safest place for them to be in the first place. And unfortunately, it is, as we all know, increasingly under attack. This summer, it was incredible to work with teachers' unions like you all to help plan out 450 marches in the wake of Uvalde. In part because of the work that we did with you all, we were able to pass the first federal gun safety law in 30 years. And it may not have been enough, but it was progress. And we're not stopping there. We've shown the power of teachers' unions working with students across the country, and it is only getting more powerful. More recently, unfortunately, as we all know, we saw what happened in Uvalde, and we saw what happened as well in Highland Park and in Buffalo. And while all of those things are horrible, we also need to address the fact, as I've said, of the daily gun violence that happens every day. And that's why I would really encourage you to practice the one thing that I've learned is the most important in this work, which is community and togetherness. It is only from having an incredibly strong community of supporters and teachers and professors too, that I've been able to continue doing this work. At times I've had to take breaks because it is very exhausting. Obviously, seeing these things continue every single day across this country. But it's from that community within March for Our Lives, from people like Noah, from people like Lonnie, our executive director, from so many other young people too across the organization, that I've been able to find the strength to persist in spite of all of the hardships that comes with organizing activism, which unfortunately far too many teachers are well aware of, because for you, similar to us, we have to organize to get our basic rights and basic things that everybody deserves, like safety, or in your case, not only safety, but good pay, good benefits, and things like that. So I would really encourage you more than anything to remember that the power, what makes successful movements are communities. What makes successful movements are when people come together for a cause greater than themselves and make sure that they build up the persistence to know that nobody is alone in this fight. So that's what I would emphasize, is know that while obviously school shootings are horrible, as teachers and as students, we have to work together to address gun violence that happens in every single community, not just communities that happen to get on the news after there's unfortunately a mass shooting there in the first place, because gun violence is happening in every community across our country. And I believe that teachers showing up at our state legislatures especially, are the best way to combat that. And if we have that community, if we have that persistence and that togetherness, I believe that we can win, and we will win. Because ultimately, as was talked about by Dr. King and many others before, I believe that the universe too is on the side of justice. And I know that teachers like my mother and you all are as well. So thank you so much for being part of that fight for peace. And let's keep going, and let's show up every year at our state legislatures and DC and our city councils until no community and no student or teacher or educator has to live in fear or danger of gun violence. Thank you.